Gutman's speech from last week. Did the administration sign off on this, or was it vetted by anyone in EUR or NEA? And does the administration agree with the sentiments that he expressed in his speech?
I think you saw, actually, let me start again. I'm not aware that his remarks were cleared back here in Washington. He made very clear in a subsequent statement that they were his thoughts or his remarks. He did condemn, and was very vocal about condemning anti-Semitism in all its forms, and I believe he expressed regret that his words might have been taken out of context.
Do you think that they were taken out of context?
I'm sorry.
Does the administration agree with the content of Ambassador
I think that's to
Gutman's
say,
speech?
and you've seen obviously the White House.
Well, no, actually, I had to get those. They were apparently being only sent to select people. I wasn't selected, maybe because I was gone. But
You're always selected.
I have seen them, however. But they don't answer the question about whether the administration agrees with what Ambassador Gutman said in his speech.
And the administration and the State Department says that we condemn anti-Semitism in all its forms.
That's great, Mark. I'm glad that you do, and I'm sure everyone is glad that you do. But do you agree with the content of Ambassador Gutman's speech? I don't know. It's a pretty easy question. Yes or no?
It was his remarks. It was
so he wasn't
his
speaking on the ambassador to Belgium. He was not.
I think he said as much. He said it was his remarks, and he was speaking on his own.
He did not say that. But he was not speaking on behalf of the U.S. government.
I don't believe so.
So the ambassador to Belgium shows up at a conference in Europe, in Belgium, and he is not speaking on behalf of the U.S. government. Is that correct?
The ambassador was expressing his views on an issue.
They're not the views.
He subsequently issued a statement clarifying that he was and expressing regret if his remarks were taken out of context. He then said that he does condemn anti-Semitism in all its forms. In fact, pointed to his own family history as a testament to that.
Well, I understand that, but you're saying that he was speaking as a private citizen, not as the U.S. ambassador?
Well, of course, when any time an ambassador speaks, he is representing the United States.
So the views that he expressed in his speech do not represent the views of the administration?
Matt.
Mark, I understand that you condemn anti-Semitism in all its forms. I understand that. Okay? I'm asking you if you agree with the content of his speech, which he gave as the U.S. ambassador to Belgium.
And I would just say that that he was sharing his views on an issue. Our commitment to Israel's security is ironclad. The United States, or Israel, has no greater friend or ally than the United States, and we condemn anti-Semitism in all its forms.
Okay, that's fine, but I'm not hearing in there, unless you're going to tell me right out, he was speaking as a private citizen and not as the ambassador. That's what you're saying?
What's that? I'm sorry.
That his comments were delivered as a private citizen, not as the representative of the U.S. government.
Again, we've been very clear that we condemn anti-Semitism in all its forms, regardless of how you call it or how you characterize it.
Okay, so you do not agree then with the contents of the ambassador's speech?
I think I'll just stop there.
Well,
I think I just said that we condemn anti-Semitism in all of its forms.
Okay, so you don't draw a distinction between criticism of Israel and
no, we don't draw any distinctions.
All criticism of Israel is anti-Semitism? Is that what you're saying?
Look, I will leave it to the ambassador to Belgium to clarify what he meant by his remarks to this gathering. I can only speak on behalf of this administration, and that is that we condemn anti-Semitism in all its forms.
Does the administration think that Israel is above reproach? In other words, that Israel should not be criticized for anything?
Speaking largely about the issue that was on the table, which is Middle East peace and the importance of it, and frankly the stability that it brings to the region, we've been very clear that the best way to a lasting peace is through the negotiating table. That remains our focus. We want to get both sides back into direct negotiations. Surely,
though, the administration has, with the specific example of, I'll use settlements here, the administration has been critical of the Israeli government.
If we're talking now about efforts to get both sides back to the negotiating table, we have been very clear when either of the parties we believe does actions or takes actions that are not constructive to that
This
process.
administration has been critical of the government of Israel before, correct?
Of course.
Yes. Is that criticism anti-Semitic?
Of course not.
So all criticism of Israel is not anti-Semitism?
Again, I don't want to parse this out. I just simply want to say that
I know you
we
don't want
condemn-
to,
we
because you're in a
condemn
very difficult
anti-Semitism
position.
in all of its forms, okay?
You're saying, though, that you accept a distinction between criticism of Israel and criticism of the government of the policies of the government of Israel and anti-Semitism. You draw a distinction between the two things, correct?
I just say that this administration has consistently stood up against anti-Semitism and efforts to delegitimize Israel, and will continue to do
Does
so.
the administration believe that you can be critical of Israel without being anti-Semitic?
I think that when it comes to trying to keep the parties focused on the peace process and in citing behavior that is not constructive to that process, we are certainly able to do that.
What?
And have done so in the past.
Does the administration believe that you can be that one can be critical of the policies of the government of Israel without being anti-Semitic?
Well, again,
Yes or no?
I think I just answered the question. That
Okay,
we
so
have
you're
been
saying that
critical-
you do draw a distinction between criticism of the government of Israel, of policies of the government of Israel, and in other words, not all criticism of Israel. When you come out and you say, we think that more settlements are a bad idea, that doesn't mean the administration
course.
is anti-Semitic,
Of course.
right?
Of course.
Okay, so in his speech, Ambassador Gutman draws a distinction between classic anti-Semitism and some kind of new form of hatred toward Jews, which is based, what he said, based on the policies of the government of Israel. It sounds as though you accept that there is a distinction between the two.
What Ambassador Gutman was, I believe what he was trying to convey is that there are different forms of anti-Semitism. We condemn them in all their forms.
I've got another on Israel, but it's not on this subject.